Welcome back, everyone. Monday night, 8 p.m. The live lounge returns. Me, Phill, Bars, Jack Garwood, and the League boys are in the house, and it's been a bumper 7 days of tungsten action. Gentlemen, good evening. How are we?
Hi.
Hola.
Hola.
You all good?
Yeah, all good. Never a dull moment, is there?
Someone looks very happy that the Premier League's coming to an end. Naming our names, Mr. Bars. Naming our names.
You know what I mean, mate?
Hello? There's an
My
extension.
favourite tournament.
You're going to do another 6 weeks? Well, I'll let you know.
I quit.
To be honest, Phil, that's the first time he's offered to resign this year that I can think of. Last year there was about 70 1 week.
Yeah.
The bloody day at one point.
Welcome along, everyone. The chat room is in full force as always. Tommy, how are we doing? Darcy is in. Paul gets to watch us as well tonight. How are we doing? Matt, the werewolf. No, Cullen is in. Well done on today, buddy. And thanks for the set of arrows. I'm going to have a chuck with them later on. How are we doing? Rob is in. Fraser, G Adventures, ABM, Florent, Karen Tiles. How are we all doing? Frey is in. We've just shared some links on social media, so if you could give them a share, we'd much appreciate it. We have Rob Cross joining us around 8:30, back in the winner's circle at Players Championship 11. And what a perfect place to start, boys. The Pro Tour returned this weekend after what seemed a lifetime away on Euro Tours.
Bobby.
Cross.
Oh, what a terrible piece of content. That is almost as bad as fucking, what's his name, doing Has Anybody Seen on TalkSport? What a load of crap.
I still want to see two dart players doing carrot in the box.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Can I be honest? I know that when you watch Carrot in the Box, Sean Locke and Lee Mack both act as if they are quite thick, but I'm not sure any of the top players would get it. I've met a fair few now. Nah.
I think Gezi against Johnny would be quite good.
Yeah. To be fair, I went and watched their bull off on Friday night, and they were just. Johnny went first, like, let's just get on with it, because obviously it's an exhibition, so throw first didn't mean a massive amount to him. And Gezi's crept up behind him, and as he's about to throw from behind, he just tapped his elbow upwards.
Fantastic.
And then Gezi missed ball. It took him 6 attempts. I was like, this is why we don't do it on TV.
First of all, 2 extra streaming boards at the Pro Tour at the weekend. What was your general thoughts? Mine overriding one was I love the fact that they kept forgetting to turn the mic off.
I mean, look, for everybody else out there, the chance to watch even more players is probably a good thing. For us, while we're streaming, it means that we can go back and look at more specific things. A lot of the time with Dart Connect on routes, if somebody misses something small or whatever, we try and predict what they've done if the scoreline's a bit bizarre. However, I don't like the rotation or lack of rotation. I understand why they're going to do it, because holding different boards to bring players on for the 64 and the 32 rather than just playing all the way straight through on 4 boards and rolling, especially as a couple of players where they're not seeded ended up on the same on a board with the seeds the following day. So it was 1, 3, 5, and 7 on Saturday, 2, 4, 6, and 8 on the Sunday. And some players, I think Daniel Closer may have been one of them, ended up on the stream board on both days.
Yeah,
it's a positive, but I am with you, Dob. I think there's still work to be done on how they stream them. Because unless you have all 16, which we know is not going to happen, or you have 1 or 2 where they are just selected, you're always going to have that crossover unfortunately, that's going to allow that to happen. The overriding feel is very much that we see there's the availability to see your favourite player or the player you want to watch. There's the availability to see certain shots as we watch it slightly differently across .net and the stream. So overriding, I think it is positive. But as much as it is with the first time they roll something out, it's still very much work in progress to how it progresses across all the Pro Tours. But it's probably back to our argument we had about 2 weeks ago around not the insignificance of a Pro Tour, but the Euro Tour sort of overriding the Pro Tour. We did say that the Pro Tour needed something a bit new, something a bit fresh at least. They are looking to sort of add something to how the Pro Tour works. If that is more streaming for a fan instead of it is for a player. For a player, I'm guessing it has minimal difference. Maybe better for sponsors looking at it. If you're not on the tour as much, at least if you're on a streaming board, you've got a bit of showing as is there. But other than that,
well, especially if you go and do something notable that ends up on PDC socials or whatever else, there is that. I mean, the quality of the board camera looked better than I remember them from the UK Open. So that's a plus as well, that they seem to have added that to it, which isn't easy to do when you're streaming just a board. I think it's easy to forget how difficult that can be to get a camera that works with the right lighting.
Yeah.
If you've ever tried to stream or play webcam darts from home with a light ring, you'll know just how bad it looks compared to just a normal camera, etc. So that was a positive, I guess. I don't know how weird it would be watching without commentary. Again, it's not something we tend to do.
Yeah, look, I suppose the other thing that we spoke about it at the weekend, Goal, obviously they're selling this product because it's not just being put on for the fun of it, because there is a cost behind it. So to sell it, there must have been some guarantees about players over the weekend and everything like that.
Well, it's rankings, isn't it? It doesn't even guarantee players. Someone like Van Gerwen dropped her 9th seed on the Pro Tour.
Yeah, but it guarantees you that majority of the time, the better players are going to be the top seeds. Majority of the time. So with that commercial element, I'm guessing why it's been done.
My favourite 2 words.
What? Commercial element?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's the world we live in now, where everything has a price.
It's a shame it wasn't done straight into the Premier League then, because that would have linked in perfectly with the commercial element for Dob, wouldn't it?
But yeah, look, I'm sure over time commentary on those boards will come. But like we said, with extra boards comes extra cost. The cost of 2 extra or 4 extra commentators, potentially.
Well, especially now they've started adding 2 to Pro Tour streams. When it was back in the day of you had 3 people on all day, maybe one doing one board, one doing the other, and you'd rotate one in if you need a break, etc. That was a little bit different. Now they are doubling up for a lot and doing that role. It's just the extra staff to run a fully manned stream as well. You've got a spotter, someone directing that stream to pick your shots, someone doing your sound engineering instead of just turning something on and off. You set your levels at the start and that's it, you go. If you've got commentary and whatever else you need, all that. So look, per stream and per board, the extra amount of staff you're going to need for all of that is significant in cost. But look, if this has enough interest and generates enough revenue, then I'm sure that will follow.
I guess as well, what's quite difficult, especially with the Toms, is because we're so used to hearing 2 people now, that then switching to extend boards but then have 1 of each would probably then be flipped on a negative instead of it actually being positive that we're seeing more darts with all commentary. So you'd have to double the amount of Toms that you've got, and then you potentially go down a route of the quality of the Toms not being as good or as strong as what it can be on the main tour, depending on who you are to using the rest of those.
We need 8 Pro Tour comms on your minimum, plus maybe 1 or 2 floating to give people a break throughout the day if they need one or want one. When the boards start cutting down, that's not so important. But yeah,
difficult one. But overall, I think, a very positive outcome for the Road Tour. Laura is in. Hope you are good, Laura, and the O'Shea's. Max as well. But Pro Tour 11. First one back over the weekend. And I think, especially early, Gob and I talked about it. I think the standard was down due to a lack of practice or a lack of board time from some of the players. Would that be a fair assessment?
I think so. I mean, we were missing enough star power anyway. There was no Peter Wright, no Nathan Aspinall, no Michael Smith, etc. We lost an awful lot of seeds early as well, despite the fact that some of them played pretty well. Gary Anderson falling, averaging over 100. There was a couple of us that did that early too. So as that seemed to unravel a little, there were a few winning averages. You're like, is that what we're really used to on the Pro Tour? But there was such a gap between this and the last time a lot of these guys played competitively, 5 weeks since the Pro Tour. You forgive that. Sunday changed that a little bit. You look at the last 32, there's not a lot of players that don't have a number next to their name, and that's possibly a little bit more like what we're used to seeing. But yeah, there was certainly something on that Saturday, especially early on in the day. Look, there were still the odd standout moment. Gert Nenchez averaging 107, Damon Hetter 103, Rob Cross 105, Josh Rock 102. You got Gary Anderson losing with 103. But there was also a lot of mid to low 80s and a few 70s sneaking in there, especially in that loser side. And whether that was being in a new venue, it was the first time that this part of the Morningside had been used to host, whether that was the gap in between or just a combination of both. It didn't feel like the strongest quality Pro Tour we've seen.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment. That we'll come on to the obviously winners and riders in a minute, but there was a couple of important runs for players, and one quarter-final lineup in particular was Radek Sedanski against Joe Cullen. Huge run for Joe Cullen because he's not been in the best of form of late, but in the race for the World Cup, huge day for Radek Sedanski.
So glad we're talking about a race for the World Cup, by the way. Just on a side note, that's great to have that conversation here. But yeah, a great run and much needed run, as you said, for both players. So for Sedanski to get to the semi-finals, probably, like says, Dobbs alluded to it there, the players who were missing across the weekend does open up those opportunities for some players. And that's one that's duly taken with a great run to the semi-finals.
Yeah. Looking at other ones, the semi-final lineup, obviously the second semi-final between Mike de Decker and Neil Zonneveld was just a breakthrough moment for the pair. Look, Neil Zonneveld has an unbelievable A game, as we've seen many times. God, perhaps this is just the start of him developing into a more rounded player, because there was some steady stuff throughout the whole day.
Yeah, he is a player that's also a little bit more methodical. So he's got that. I don't think you're ever going to knock him out of his rhythm. And we've seen some solid results from him. We've seen some performances on the Dev Tour in the past. I don't want to say it was a full coming of age day, but like you said, it was a solid run from him, taking out some solid players. Plenty of all Dutch matches for him. In fact, he had 3 in a row. Jermaine Mortimer, Kevin Dukes, and Jimi Hendrix, all on the spin.
Yeah. But Rob Cross back in the winner's circle. Look, we've said this many a time over the last 6 to 8 months that this has been coming. Rob has got to Euro Tour finals, latter stages of Euro Tours, latter stages of Pro Tours. This has very much been on the cards. Rob Cross back in the winner's circle.
Yeah, no real surprise to see that name there. I know it's probably as easy as talking someone up who's about to join us in 15 minutes and we don't want to over-talk someone up, but no real surprise that Rob Cross is back there. There was obviously a lot of talk about the invitational events with Cross early on in the year, and I'm sure that's something that we'll discuss later on, but for this, there's certain players who you can be surprised with picking up a Pro Tour, but I would go as far as saying that this weekend there was no real surprises
No, and
in picking up the title, yes, we runs, but picking up the title, not at all.
Yeah, look, he's averaged 101.59 in the final gob and just looked in such composed form all day on the Saturday.
Yeah, his scoring power on show was ridiculous. I mean, when you watch the semi-finals, you thought maybe Mike Dedeker produces the level we've seen from him previously in the day, that he'd have a shot at it. But, I mean, he averaged 105 to beat Gerwyn Price in the quarterfinals. His scoring was ridiculous. It did feel a little as though it was a step too far for Dedeker. Lost his range on the treble just a little bit, a lot of 60s, 59s. And when you're going up against someone who is as experienced as Rob Cross and who was as relentless as Rob Cross, that can be difficult to overcome in your first, what I believe was his first senior PDC ranking final. But yeah, look, take nothing away from Rob Cross. I thought he was absolutely exceptional. Still never going to be sold on his action, I don't think, compared to where he was when he's picking up world titles. I think he's had too many up and downs with it. But like, when you go and pick up a title, who's to argue against you?
Yeah, all good. And obviously this one there, which we'll talk to him about when he comes on, pretty much seals the World Cup spot. It was close going into the weekend, but Voltage, barring some turn of events, will represent England at the World Cup.
Yes. That's some turn of events, by the way, is Luke Humphries winning a Euro tour. It's not like he's not done that before.
Yeah, which, if there's one player you'd think that's doable for.
There's one player you're looking out for to go win a Euro tour after winning 4 last year. Yeah, that might be the conversation to be had. Especially on a weekend where other players, look, there's quite a small number of players that have ever won a European Tour event. Rob Cross's name is not one of those, despite being European champion. But a lot of them will be between Premier League finals night and travelling to New York for a World Series event. There is a chance the likes of Van Gerwen, Gerwyn Price, Michael Smith do not play on the European Tour this weekend.
Well, it's interesting that both Rob and Luke are in New York as well. So that might be a juggling act. I think Rob's going to go and play. Obviously, we'll ask him when he comes on, but I think he'll play in Sindelfingen. I was going to say Frankfurt, but I knew it wasn't.
World Cup.
World Cup, yeah. I think Rob will play in Sindelfingen. And look, the likelihood is the way he's playing, he's not going to not pick up money.
Yeah.
So, there. Moving on. Players Championship 12. Spoiler alert, Johnny Clayton playing himself into some form ahead of the Premier League finals at the O2. The Ferret doing Ferret things.
Look, there were some moments in the day where he's absolutely exceptional and unplayable. The 107 average against Pascal Ruprecht in the top 16. One of those. But the rest of it, and the run to the final and the run to the title, and even turning around that final, he trailed at one point to Josh Rock, and you're like, this might be it now for Johnny. It was about moments for the Ferret, and he was there.
Yeah. Wouldn't be the same if Gobbs Internet didn't freeze boys.
It's still going. We just can't hear him. You went.
I noticed. We saw 160 checkouts. We saw a 141. We saw a few 121s without the finger point. Very disappointed in Johnny for not doing that. But every single time he was pushed, he just seemed to find a response or a big finish to bail him out of trouble. Now, I know producing a big finish to bail yourself out of trouble in front of 5,000 or whatever will be in the O2 on Thursday night against Gerwyn Price is a little bit different to doing it on a pro tour with about 3 people stood behind you for 12 grand instead of 250 or 125 for the semi. But look, there are worse ways to get yourself ready for a tournament. Let's put it that way.
Is there anyone better in the world though right now producing a moment than Johnny Clayton?
He's up there.
If there's one player with I know we always talked about 1-2-1, but even though any sort of ton plus check out, it's a key moment, not just the first leg of the game or whatever, but is there a better player? Because right now, I'm not sure there is. I know you talked about it being different from Pro Tour to Premier League stage, but I would probably fancy him more than anyone to produce that on Thursday night at that key moment, being behind or being clawed back and he finds a way. Surely he's the guy for that.
If you go back to his back-to-back wins in the Premier League, I still don't think he was playing his A game. He wasn't blowing people off the board.
There was a moment in the semi-final against Damon Heta where he was in a bit of bother and he produced a 160 from absolutely nowhere because the actual scoring phase of the leg, I'm not being diskind here, was absolutely shite.
Was that... No, wasn't that against Rock?
I thought it was against Damon. Wait a minute, let's have a look. I just remember the scoring phase being absolutely shit, and then he bombed a 160.
The opponent had 38, and we were like, oh, do you lay up here? And they went 6, missed 2 on the outside because Johnny's so far back, and then bang, a 160.
Yeah. That was just brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But Andrew Gilding, perhaps getting back to somewhere near his best. It's not really been the same since winning the UK Open. Look, I know it's a lot to take in, but a better weekend for him.
Closing in on a Premier League spot next year.
I've got more chance of playing in the Premier League.
Silly twat. Who invited him?
That's got to be the earliest that someone's been booted out of the minute since we've all now had this access. But
we had a conversation on Friday night about Premier League players and field size if it changes. And I'm telling you now, there were 17 or 18 names thrown around, and his was not one of them.
No. I'll tell you what, as well, the bomber in the house. How we doing, Steve? Hope you are good, mate.
Back from a very busy weekend. In fact, Steve, you need to let us know when you're free because your business is doing an awful lot of good work right now, and we need a discussion about it.
And you've blown us out twice. Not that we're judging.
Yeah. Last year. That's how long we waited to get Steve on the show. He was meant to be on the week of the Grand Prix last year.
Yeah. The second time, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and congratulations on becoming a granddad as well. But back to Players' Championship number 12. Josh Rock, again, at the start of this year, maybe just struggled a little bit with second season syndrome and doing Josh Rock things at the start of the year. Maybe the tank was a little bit empty, but he's come alive again and showing what a star he is.
We talked about pressure on players. There's an awful lot on Josh Rock. I can't think of many players in the second season at the age that Josh Rock is at, had the amount of pressure that he's got on his shoulders. There is a few, but not many at all. And I think we just saw that early on. But the talent's never done away. And so, then it's probably the tit start that he needed 5 months into the year. But I think it's only going to get better and better now from the youngster. And I know we can say it, we've said it before, but I think the future for Josh Rock's going to be top notch, even short term for me. I think it's only a matter of time before we get that PDC title. Another.
Yeah, look, he's a fabulous talent and he's a good lad as well. Funny lad. When you spend time in his company, he's got a wicked sense of humour.
If you're spending that much time with John O'Shea, you've probably got to have that wicked sense of humour.
Other good runs here. Boris Kirchmar making a quarter-final. But more importantly, there's a young German lad that caught the eye very much at Q School. And his numbers were astronomical, considering no one knew anything about him. Pascal Riprek went through Q School at a canter. And he's delivering on the Pro Tour as well. Huge numbers from him at times. And for someone that's training to be a police officer still as well, it's a very bright future and one to asterisk, as to say, this could be a huge talent.
Yeah, I think the key thing for Pascal over other prospects we've seen come out of Germany is that whilst he is putting a priority on an education or a fullback career, he's still competing on the Pro Tour at the same time. Nico Kurtz possibly is the other one to have a look at. We saw him play at Alexandra Palace, etc., and he insisted on finishing his education first. And I think perhaps he missed the boat a little bit. He's qualified for 2 of the 3 European tours over the weekend, and he's still a fantastic player. But I think the impact that Nico Kurtz could have had at that point, and the form potentially was carrying on a little bit of a high, would have been better for him to take that leap. Look, I fully get having a backup plan. Absolutely not against the backup plan. In fact, I'd encourage it to pretty much anybody. The one concern we had about someone like Luke Little in the week was that he was prepared to finish his education or at this moment and just go straight to playing darts.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, as if by magic, we've timed this absolutely perfectly because he's just popped into the back end of our stream, and as if by magic, the one and only Mr. Rob Cross, ladies and gentlemen.
How we doing? You all right?
How we doing, Bobby?
Not too bad, mate. I have to admit, my phone's not very loud. I'm going to have to raise my hearing aid.
First of all, mate, congratulations at the weekend, back in the winner's circle. How did that feel?
Oh, do you know, it's just amazing, really. I don't think I played that well on the floor this year. I think I've been pretty poor by my own standards sometimes. I've enjoyed the stage a lot more, I have to admit. But now this weekend, getting there, get a win. And do you know, I sort of had a feeling in myself the way I wanted it this weekend, that it was going to go right for me.
Yeah, and you're one that swears by your routine, and you're very firmly in it now. And you've been threatening this. We've seen Euro Tour finals, latter stages. This tournament win has been on the cards, hasn't it?
Mate, I can't hear you now.
You hear us now?
Yeah, anyone good with technology? This is going well already, isn't it?
Can you hear us now, mate?
Feel better than does it.
Turn your volume up on your phone, mate.
I have. It's full blast. My phone must be knackered. I've wore it out. I've spent too much time in hotel rooms on my own. Streaming Netflix.
Yeah.
Can I try George's phone?
Yeah, it's fine, mate. No worries.
That'd be better. Yeah? I'll just send the link over and then, I'll try there. And I'll be back in 2 seconds. Sorry.
That's all right, mate.
See you in a bit.
See you in a bit, mate. We'll get Rob back on in a second. No one can't say we don't do this live either. No, you don't get this anywhere else. But no, look, super stuff from there. Updating whilst we're doing this. Johnny Clayton, firmly world number 7 now. Look, there's gaps starting to appear in the rankings as well. That very much in blocks at the moment, isn't it? It's like 1 block, 2 block, 3 blocks and down. The way the ranking is looking on the order of merit.
Yeah, I guess, and part of that mirrors form. I guess Peter Wright is possibly the one that you look at the group he's currently in and go, at the moment, maybe you're not quite in that conversation. Like, still got the ability to turn it on at any given point. But Smith, Van Gerwen and Price, then you've got that next batch of Rob Cross, Luke Humphreys, Johnny Clayton, Danny Noppert to a certain extent, Nathan Aspinall, Dimitri Gert, all those that you're looking at Pro Tour contenders and not dark horses, but players that have got the ability and the caliber to go and win major titles, especially in the last couple of years where they have been shared around that little bit more. Then there seems to be guys just outside that, your Ryan Searle, your Damon Hetter, etc. And then it moves back to players that have had a shot and are on the decline a little bit. And that's the worry, isn't it? Is how quickly players like Jose de Souza and James Wade are dropping down compared to Ross Smith closing the gap upwards, Chris Dobie and co.
And we are back He's back again. Can you hear us now, mate?
No, I'm deaf as a door now. I'm only joking. No, it's all good. It's all good.
He's
the 99p Christmas cracker from Argos. That's my sums it up, doesn't it, boys? No good.
You just won 12 grand, mate. You could buy yourself a new one.
No, my missus likes a bit of shopping. She'd probably shoot me for saying that, though, so we shouldn't go there, you know?
To be fair, I've got to know you quite well over the last 4 or 5 years, Rob. I'm guessing that there'll be some machinery involved with the winnings as well.
I don't know. I'm sort of at the minute, I'm looking to move. I'm looking to go up country, make my job a little bit easier, take a bit of the stress out of the driving, you know, with the Pro Tours and other stuff. So, realistically, yeah, no point buying machinery yet when it's going to cost a load of money to move it 200 miles up country.
No chainsaws or JCBs this time, then?
I could do with a new chainsaw. Just ain't got any trees to cut down anymore. I've done them all, you know. There's not a tree left, I'm telling you. Hastings is bare. I shouldn't say things like that. Done myself again. I'm on a roll today, boys. We're going to have a good crack.
I love having Bobby on. Rob, first of all, obviously a big weekend for yourself that you and Luke Humphreys were having this little tussle who was going to play for England. And you've pretty much cemented your place in the England team now. You must be proud of that.
Yeah, obviously I've worked hard. Last couple of weeks, me and him have had a bit more banter about it and all, which is fantastic. You know, I love it. I love the camaraderie of it all. And he's given me a little bit. I've given him a little bit. And, you know, it's good fun. He's a good boy, but you can't write him off. He won four Europeans last year. You know, he's got a win this weekend coming. And I still don't put it past him because he's that good, you know. I've done decent to get when it all got close, that's when it all sort of the banter got better. And obviously I peeled away a little bit more. But yeah, he's already told me he's going to win it again next week. So another week and maybe long sort of hope that continues, you know. It's good fun. It's good fun with the boys when it's like that.
Well, on that, obviously you and Luke are both in New York and both in the Euro Tour. Are you going to play in the Euro Tour before New York this week?
Yeah, obviously it's I think I fly up Monday. It's close, but at the same time, you know, I don't feel a need at the minute to really miss a lot in the calendar. I think I've got a decent balance. I've been playing well for quite a while now. Don't get me wrong, we all have our bad weekends. I think I had a bad 3 weeks actually, not so long back, but it's how you bounce back and the game's still good. I seem to find when I'm super interested, I seem to win more games for some reason.
I gotta ask you, Rob. We said you go from the Euro Tour to New York. You were quite insistent at times last year. You weren't going to play in any more invitational events. What's changed your mind on that?
No comment and nothing to add to my previous statement. What was the question, mate? No, I'm only playing. No, obviously, did you know the World Series this year going to Bahrain, Copenhagen in January? I really enjoyed it. And I did want some family time this year. Obviously, my youngest, he's getting older now. He's a little terror. Sometimes I wish I never spent the time because all he does is rip holes in me, you know. But at the same time, no, it's nice to have that family time. And I think it's helped me head just being around them, you know, having them around. And I sort of got used to that a bit. But going forward, really, I'd like to do a little bit more now. I have to admit, I've changed the corner. I feel better in myself. And I think at times, if you're not quite right, you have to do the right thing for you. So, but I've definitely got a lovely balance now. And I'm always looking forward to sort of going to play and trying to perform to the best of my capabilities.
Is it a case of just getting that balance right? Because going back to the year after you won the World Championship, you were here, there, and everywhere. And by the end of the year, I think that perhaps you were quite well. I think you've said it before that the balance was completely wrong at that point. There was no home life. You like being at home. You like being able to go to walks on the beach with the dogs, etc. Like, is that just getting the balance right?
Yeah, obviously, I'm a grafter at the game. I know I like to do a bit of practice. I like to know how I'm playing all the time. You know, I seem to have Mondays off, but I try and pick up a few darts on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday when I'm not that busy. I like routine. Would be sort of the word for it. I think a routine for me it helps me, and I seem to cope better with it. I don't get so frustrated then. But look, it is what it is, and how long do we know how long a job's going to last for? You know, so you can't really turn a lot down in your life because you don't know whether it's going to be there the following year or the year after or even in 2 months. You know, I'm lucky to do my job and I'm very grateful. It's not one of them things, and I know it's not going to last forever, so you've got to try and sort of make it pay while it's there.
On the World Cup, Rob, obviously you played in the old format. Are you looking forward to the World Cup being pairs only?
Yeah, obviously pairs only. Yeah, I've not really played a game of pairs for however long. Probably since I was in the World Cup last time, actually. A few years. But yeah, I'm not too sure yet whether I could trust me partner, you know, world champion, world number one. I think we've got trust issues there. But yeah, obviously if I get there, you know, it'd be amazing to play with Mike. Obviously, last time when I played with Mike, made the final, lost in the final, didn't quite work out, but it worked very well for the weekend and it sort of went good. So yeah, fun memories, and hopefully if I get in, sort of build on that and try and win it this time, go one better.
And you mentioned that over the past few weeks there's been a lot of sort of banter between you and Luke Humphreys. Has Michael Smith been involved in that at all? Knowing obviously that you're
not at all. No, not really. You know, don't get me wrong. I'd love to swap with Mike. Obviously, I have no worries about it. I said, go on, boys, battle it out, get on with it. You know, I'll put my feet up in the background, but he probably don't do that. He's a busy boy, but nah, he just sort of the banter's great with Luke. You know, it's probably escalated since he got sort of £3,000 in between it or whatever it was at one point. You know, it escalated, it went up, and yeah, he called me a few words on Sunday morning when I see him, but yeah, that's just one of them. That's just one of them. I took it all with a pinch of salt.
You said Georgia likes a bit of shopping. Are you taking Georgia to New York then?
I am, yeah. She's come up with this plan. If we take less suitcases on the way out there, she can fill them up on the way back. So I don't know how that's going to work, and whether obviously Lloyd's TSB is going to want to comply really, or whether I'm going to comply. Who knows?
Are you excited to play darts in New York? Because obviously I went last year. Playing in Madison Square Garden was something special. Are you looking forward to playing darts in the Big Apple?
Oh, 100%. I've never been before, so it's going to be something new for me. Obviously, Madison Square Garden says it all. It's had all the greats there at one point in sort of generations gone and stuff, and decades. So now for me to get an invite to that was absolute buzzing, obviously. And yeah, like I said, I've enjoyed the World Series so far for what I've done in January and stuff. It probably worked in my favour in January because otherwise I would have just sat at home eating, getting a little bit chubbier and not done any practice. I have to admit, in January you sort of get your downtime, but it kept me playing, kept me fresh, and just carried on from there really.
One weird superstition, not a superstition, but people won't know, Rob, that you change your darts every time you play on TV, don't you? And
yeah,
like most people like to wear in a set of darts, but you're the opposite, that like that brand new feel. And when you played with the set before you signed for Target that were all different weights, then to go into a new set all the time, that's quite a radical switch.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a mental side, really, having it all different, and just wanted. I noticed with the darts, if I wear them down after sort of 3 or 4 months, and then trying to get used to another set didn't quite feel the same. So I just liked sort of the feeling of the brand newness and the sharpness on them, and just try and maintain that and keep that. So that's why I change my darts every game. Not only that, I like to sort of cost Target a little bit more money, you know, get my money's worth. And yeah, I'm sure Gary can afford it. He's good. He's good. He's a good man. He looks after me thoroughly.
We've seen you tinker with darts in the past as well, but are you actually settled back on the Gen 1s now?
I am at the minute. Yeah, I might look for another one, and yeah, see whether I can introduce. Maybe I was looking at August, but maybe if it's not August, maybe look at January next year now. So bring something else in, have another little play, and then end up with my old ones 3 months later. I'll run traits. There's no point delusion in it.
Plenty of things coming up. The World Match Play on the horizon somewhere that you've got good memories on. Looking forward to heading back to Blackpool.
I love it. It's probably one of it. It's definitely out me too. You know, obviously we ain't tried Madison Square Gardens yet, but No, obviously the Worlds, the match play. The match play, absolutely amazing. And I have to admit, after winning the match play, was probably the first competition what I won, what I managed to sort of get to enjoy away from the media attention and being whisked off your feet, you know, which was great. So I actually got a really good vibe off that, and I just love the place. It's old, it's iconic, it's just it's special to me.
I like that. Really big fan of that. Obviously, away from your own game, you spend a lot of time with Josh Rock, practice with him when you can, and he's burst back to life after a bit of a slow start. Did you just have a few words with him when it was not going his way a little bit and just settling back down again?
No, obviously he pecks at me. He takes advice and he takes it very well. Not only that, he's always trying to get something extra out of me and all, you know. We're always having chats. We're close friends. He's a great kid. Well, I say kid's man, really. But not only that, I've got to say, how good's he? How good is he? And I have to admit, you watch him on the streams, and don't get me wrong, he goes a little mangy 101, you know. Makes it look easy, misses a few doubles and stuff. But yeah, you practice with him and then you see it again. And I personally think he can put another 5-6 points all the time on them averages, you know. It's just his finishing, he sorts that out, he gets that right. He's the best dart player I've seen turn up on tour since me.
Yeah, I like that. Oh,
100%. But for a debut, you know, but he's absolutely amazing. And yeah, he's consistent and all, super consistent.
Yeah, obviously on you as well, that getting to know you, what does Rob Cross like to do away from darts? Obviously, we see you in and around talking on Sky when you're ITV, but what does Voltage like to do away from the hockey?
You're going to have to say that again, mate.
Sorry,
is that my signal?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's all right. Go on.
No,
sorry.
What does Rob Cross like to do away from the hockey? What does Dan time...
would be, wouldn't it? Cheap broadband now. Not my day.
What does Dan time look like for Rob Cross?
Oh, do you know, just lately I've been trying to get a suntan. The old weather's changed, so I've been doing a bit of fishing with my old man, bit of relaxation. Still trying to do a little bit at home, sort of get round, but like I said, where I'm moving, there's no point of that, and just sort of spending time with the family, you know, seeing the kids as much as I can, doing a few bits for them. I've got a day out with the eldest boy on Wednesday. We're going out. So, it'd be good. It'd be really good.
I like that. So, the rest of the year, what would be a good year for Rob?
For where I am at the minute, I'd obviously pick a match play up would be lovely. Pick a Worlds up would be even better. But, no, realistically, I'll win a TV major this year. Guaranteed. The way I'm playing, the way where I am, the headspace, I'll be dangerous. Apart from maybe the Grand Prix. I can hit doubles lovely. I just can't hit 2 doubles in a leg, you know.
If and when that promised major you've just said to us does come, are your eyes back on the Premier League next year? And if so, what do you think of the current format compared to the last time that you played in the Premier League?
I think, me on the Premier League next year, I definitely 100% want it. I've sort of like, I have to admit now everything's settled down for me. Everything's great, you know. Going into that, if I manage to get it, it'd be an achievement as one. But not only that, I actually think I could go in there and do some damage. And my head would take it now. We're getting bombarded by the best players every week because that's what also what you got to think, you know. I think, I played well last year, but this year maybe weren't just quite ready for it in a way in myself. And I think I'll be ready next year, and I'm already ready now. So it's the biggest thing you're ever really doing the game, I suppose, for them 16 weeks with the venues, with the great crowds, you know. It's amazing. The format for me, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on it. Obviously, I ain't judge and jury, and it's one of them. And I think it's very much the same. pretty much every week. That's not running it down because it's still delivered great and everything's great, but I think the format could maybe do with a little change up or something. Just a little change, just freshen it, because you're seeing all these big games, but you're seeing them so often every week, Pricey's dominated in it. Michael's had his times, Van Gerwen, and obviously Smithy also. And 2 weeks, well, I suppose it was a blessing that you get down to the last place and it was still up for grabs on the last week. Otherwise, it could have been finished a lot sort of earlier, really.
One thing that keeps coming up, and it still makes me laugh, that you've won the World Championship, you've won the Match Play, you've won Pro Tours. There's still one type of title that eludes Rob Cross, and that is a Euro Tour title. Are we going to finally get one?
I'm not too sure. I feel like someone's got their foot on my head, I think I've made 7 finals, and it ain't been the most happiest hunting ground for me. Nothing what I'm proud about and all. Lukey killed me with that 108 last year. I thought I got him. He's definitely going to bottle it here, and then he goes and pops it in. Fair play, was class, but yeah, that one hurt. No, look, it's round the corner. I'm playing great, and I'm sure, if I keep putting myself and giving myself opportunities, they come anyway. I never worry about that. I never doubt me bottle either at it. So it's always been fairly consistent. When the head's good, everything seems to go right. So, hopefully this weekend. Then I get World Cup guaranteed, don't I?
Very intriguing. It's very intriguing listening to you predict your year and that World Grand Prix and TV tournament, but you didn't mention the Euro Tour when you said, I'm going to win something this year.
Yeah, would you have done if you were in my position? Ask yourself the same question. Come on, we can't do this. Okay. If I was going to cut my own throat, I'd do it.
Rob Cross, thank you very much for joining us on the Live Lounge, mate. We massively appreciate your time on a Monday. I know it's family time, and I look forward to seeing you in New York.
Thank you so much, yeah? Have a lovely evening.
Good luck.
Take care.
Cheers, Bobby.
Cheers, yeah. Look after yourself, boys. Take care. Bye-bye.
The one and only Mr. Rob Cross, ladies and gentlemen, and that was really refreshing. I like Rob in that headspace. He spoke really well, clear what he wants to do, and it's just nice to see Bobby in that space.
You do well to argue against him, backing up the things he's saying as well when he talks as confidently but as calmly as that. But there's a lot of competition for titles and wins, etc. in the world of darts right now. But if he plays the way he did on Saturday, who are we to bet against him?
And with the sort of change of mindset, I think you hit it the nail on the head there, Phil, with a sort of change of mindset of I will be back in the Prem. We heard 6-7 months ago about the non-invitationals. I think that's sort of changed. And his Dame is living up to that right now. So it seems like we are going to see a very, very strong Rob Cross and a contender for TV, if not Euro Tour titles for the next 7 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Massively appreciate Rob's time, as always. I look forward to seeing how many suitcases Georgia brings to New York. Right. We're going to go to it because there's plenty to discuss. We're going to do it all in one. Our little Premier League segment. We're going to look back at Aberdeen and look forward to the playoffs. So, Aberdeen. It had twists, turns, drama, and a little bit of everything at the P&J live in Aberdeen. First of all, what was your first thoughts on the night itself?
Crap.
Why? Because you only got 6 games of your favourite tournament instead of 7.
You want to slap me? It was okay. There was enough drama in there. Aspinall beating Clayton kept the night alive that little bit longer. Only to then lose to Gerwin Price. Obviously, the difference in performances from Nathan Aspinall, I think he'll walk away incredibly frustrated at that because against Johnny Clayton, he was dominant. He was exceptional. He came out focused. He did the job. He then went into that match with Gerwin Price. There was a little bit of crowd issue within that match that I just completely don't understand at all. And yeah, to fall at that hurdle after doing the job in the first game in such an impressive fashion will be hurting Nathan Aspinall. But as we heard from Johnny, look, he was a great sportsman and sent Johnny best wishes messages almost immediately after, which to do in that headspace is incredibly big from Nathan. The rest of the night, still surprised by the winner. I didn't back Dimitri to go and win a night. He was solidly impressive against Michael Smith in the first game. Obviously, to lose Van Gogh into injury and get that walkover makes it that little bit different. And then Gerwyn Price seemed to undo, for me, an awful lot of the work that he'd done for the last 15 weeks in getting crowds on side. And I appreciate there were people whistling and whatever else, especially in that Aspinall game. And then they got a reaction from him in that final as well. But after spending so long trying to get crowds on side, that one little chink in the armour from Price might cost him that relationship for another 3 to 6 months again.
I don't know. I don't think it was that bad, considering Aspinall did it as well. When he played, Aspinall turned around and give it to him as well. And they didn't make any sense. Normally, in a venue, fans, not just in Aberdeen, will boo one player. But at one point, Aspinall had it, Gezi had it, Dimmy had it, and they were all kind of playing each other. It didn't make any sense the way the fans went for the players.
Aspinall and Price definitely strikes me as one of two things in that game. Initially, all of the whistles were aimed at Nathan Aspinall. They were on 140s or when he's got two in the treble and the third one, or going for a dart double. And it felt like either someone is A, a massive Gerwyn Price fan trying to influence the outcome, or B, that somebody's gambling on the match. But after about 5 or 6 legs, that completely swapped. Now, either somebody was retaliating after the person that was whistling to Nathan was ejected or removed or told to stop or whatever, or somebody was gambling and they'd got enough of the bet that they needed one way and now needed the result to start going slightly the other way if they were betting on something so specific. But it was just very, very strange.
Yeah.
Just disappointing that it's what we're talking about and what we shouldn't be talking about when there's already so much drama from the night. That I'll openly mention it in our group that Nathan Aspinall's performance was one of the best I thought in the Premier League this season. Yeah, he didn't go on to match it, but the injury to MVG and sort of we're talking about the crowd, and rightfully so because of how they acted or certain individuals acted. It's just disappointing that that's the conversation that we're having to have because it was a feature of the night. I agree with a few people in the chat room that Aberdeen just isn't the same without Gary Anderson. I know you'll agree with that. I know Peter Wright obviously plays under the Scottish flag, but it's just not the same without Dandel there, is it?
Evening, Shawnee Mac. It was good catching up with you in Aberdeen as always, buddy. Look, just a brief one on that. Obviously, I've done Glasgow and Aberdeen, and it was weird. And Scotland doesn't work without Gary Anderson. And that shouldn't be the case because it should be about the sport. But the atmosphere at both venues wasn't the same this year without Gary. That's a little bit of a concern for me.
Is that more of an issue knowing that the same 16 venues next year have already been retained?
Yeah, possibly. But look, the crowds, the atmosphere was still good, but it wasn't. Glasgow and Aberdeen both weren't electric like they were when Gary played.
Yeah, it is difficult because whether we would or not, right now you can't just try Gary Anderson being in the Premier League for 2 venues. That's the difference.
Contenders?
So then,
Contenders?
the same contender at 2 venues.
I'll tell you what, if that ever happened, please record the phone call. Hi, Gary, double world champion, Premier League champion, match play champion. Do you want to be a contender?
Local heroes, we'll call them that, yeah?
Yeah, no.
Player from Brighton.
Yeah. Look, it was weird. But back to the darts because we'll go through it. that we're not going to go through it all because we've got a lot to get through. But in the quarterfinals, Nathan Aspinall was sensational in beating Johnny Clayton and doing half the job he had to do.
He was only 103. It was my sort of lot at the end of that game because he didn't put a foot round. When I think we all backed Johnny, or we all sort of saw that sort of route coming. And when I say we all, I now started their predictor, and it was very much Johnny-sided, because no one sort of would there have been a massive surprise if Ash would have won. Probably not. The fact that Ash put that performance in and demolished Johnny Clayton, with Clayton not doing an awful lot run. Yes, he started a bit slow, but it was just a sensational performance when needed. However, it probably just took too much out of Nathan Aspinall. The emotion of that game, the crowd involvement, the manner of the performance. But it was one of the standout performances for me across the 16 weeks when it was needed, like it says, at that time.
Yeah. So we'll come on to the other semi-final. We'll come to the semi-finals in a minute, but we're going to skip then to the last quarter-final. Michael Van Gerwen at the time was currently averaging around 108, and there was a massive, massive yelp groan when he pulled something in his arm, and everyone noticed it straight away. And we've got a clip to play, and we've spoken to him since. But from the moment he did it, everyone could see there was something wrong.
Yeah, and actually, there was a moment where we thought winning that game was going to be actually a bad thing for Van Gerwen. That he picks up the win and then withdrew anyway. After seeing him seeing him in person Friday, still more concerned. Seeing his performances on the board Saturday and Sunday, I think he'll be there. I don't think he's going to let this one go without a fight. If he hadn't played this weekend and there was still doubts over his form, etc., later in the week, then if I was Nathan Aspinall, I'd be getting quite giddy right now at the fact that I'd missed out, but maybe I wouldn't be missing out, sort of thing. But unless something goes significantly wrong with Michael between now and Wednesday, I don't see him not playing on Thursday night.
Yeah, well, we've got a clip to play in a second, but it was an interesting turn of events as well, because as soon as he come off, he had treatment in the venue from the on-site paramedic teams that obviously all live events have to have. So he immediately had treatment. Dave, obviously from the PDC, the head of media, come in, and we were like, is he going to play? Isn't he not going to play? And at that point, it was, yes, he's going to play. And then Dave come in and went, Michael's won the ball. And then literally 2 minutes later, it was, he's not playing. It was a weird turn of events in that 15, 20 minutes.
Well, yeah. with it being a week of other than £10,000, no meaning to MVG, it's the right decision, surely. The strange for me was probably seeing him back Saturday, Sunday so quickly after. But it was the right decision to pull at that time, if there's any doubt whatsoever. The big prize of the Premier League is finals week. Not finishing top, it makes no difference. It doesn't matter where you finish in the table in theory. So, as long as we're in that top four, it was the right thing to do. I'm surprised the fact he even pulled up. When we sort of got the message that he pulled up was more surprising than the fact he pulled out. It would have been a strange move for him to play.
At that point, it was just trying to work out how far he can push it. He didn't feel comfortable enough at that point going back again, if it was just a one-off or if it was every single time he threw it. You just got to learn about yourself after 10, 15, 20 minutes rest sort of thing. The other thing that will probably buoy him is, much like Nathan Aspinall when he hurt his wrist last year, he's been given reassurances on Friday and Saturday morning that whatever he does, he will not make it worse.
Yeah.
And that must allow you to play through that pain barrier. I think to some extent, Nathan Aspinall was incredibly edgy about the fact he thought at one point he could throw a dart and his wrist would just snap in half. The minute you said, nope, that's not going to happen, almost physically impossible, look at the upturn in results Nathan Haspel had last season. He's in the Premier League now because of the change in form from that moment. And I think just that reassurance that Michael has received from physios Friday and Saturday morning, played Pro Tour this weekend, he'll be there Thursday.
Yeah, well, we've got a clip in a minute to play. So then all eyes were on semi-final number 1, where Gerwyn Price went out to bat for his World Cup teammate, Johnny Clayton. Nathan Aspinall had to win. And there was a moment in the game, I think Gazzy took out, it was a 1-2 something with Aspinall on a double. And it was the look, the camera panned to Nathan behind him, and it was enough to say, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Especially given that he'd already had issues with the crowd at that point as well. You could just feel like nothing is going your way. And when you've got to fight and battle, like, it's just a wall, isn't it?
Yeah. But Nathan gave it his all. Look, Dimitri did go on to win the night. Let's give Dimitri some credit. Do I think he'd have won it if Michael Van Gogh had pulled out? No, just because of his record against Michael.
Probably before the night, I would agree with you.
I mean, yeah,
before the night,
yeah. Do I think that he'd have beaten Michael because I'd got Michael to go through?
Yeah.
And no, not a chance. But look, you can only play the hand that you're dealt, and Dimitri played it very, very well.
It did. And look, go and win a night. One of 7 now to do so. Lee politely reminded us that at the start of this campaign, one of us back 5, one of us back 6, and one of us backed all 8. So that completely screwed that prediction the only way possible at that point. And you can't take anything away from Dimitri. That night win was special, but against Michael Smith and Gerwyn Price, back-to-back wins on the night, fair play. I think the fairest assessment of it is it papers over the cracks a little bit. In the most part, this has not been a good campaign for Dimitri Vandenberg.
No, I agree. 100%. Right, we've got some clips. We'll play Dimitri's from the night, first of all.
But the crowd got on his back and he just showed his class again. It was 5-3 down, he came back to 5-5. He should have won in the end. In the very end, he should have won. He missed. I had a chance and I took it, and I was like, oh my days, what's happening? Like, I've managed to win a Premier League night, and I know it took all the way to the last 16, like the 16th night, but Dimi is a winner. I am a winner.
What's that period like in between you beating Michael Smith and knowing that you're in the final? Because obviously Michael got injured. I'm guessing you could see that in the practice room. You then bull up as well, thinking you're playing, and then...
I lost the ball. I lost the ball against Van Gerwen. Don't forget that. I also lost the ball because even though Michael was having some troubles with himself, we bulled up and he straight away hit bullseye as well, and he even won the ball. And I'm like, all right, you've got to go up there and on the stage you've got to do the business. That's what I was thinking. Very simple. And then all of a sudden I got told just before we had to go up, Michael has to pull out. The injury is just too much, and he's not feeling that he's going to push himself. So, yeah, fair play to him. That's professionalism, very simple, I understand it. But, yeah, that puts me into a position. It's my second final. I had to win my first game to get into this position, so it's not that I just got granted it. I still had to beat the world champ. I still had to beat Michael Smith, who has won 3 nights in a row. So it's not that I just got it easy. So yeah, just make sure that you focused on the positives, just like I am. And all of a sudden, Dimitri Vandenberg has got his first W. And you know what? Get in, booyah!
After you, Lee.
No, after you, Jad.
Don't drink Malibu, kids.
Well done, Dimitri.
Right.
I don't think there's any other player who would have celebrated the way he's in that press conference. That's what I like. I don't think there's anyone else.
Right, these 2 next clips, they were done the next days, but they're still specific to there. First of all, we're going to listen to a very relieved Johnny Clayton.
By text, to be fair to him, true gentleman, he said, congratulations and go and smash it next week. You know, that takes a lot because obviously, like you just asked me that question, feelings after losing are totally different to feelings after winning, and especially to get through to that final four. So, to be fair to him, true gentleman, class act, fair play to Nathan Aspel.
I like that. Big fan of that. Because literally, Johnny, he couldn't get out of the venue quick enough. And he was like, did you watch it? He's like, no, I didn't want to. And his mate Kendall, who travels with him a lot of the time, decided to watch it instead. So Johnny was like, I didn't want to know what was going on. Instead, I knew because Kendall was cheering or stressing every time one of them won a leg. So it was good. But then on Friday, this was the one that everyone wanted. The big exhibition in Armageddon, which was a fabulous event, which Michael was meant to be going head-to-head with Gezi. MVG still turned up to do all the meet and greets and everything for people. And we managed to get a word with him, and this is what he said.
It's okay, of course. Most important thing for me is next week, and I'm not going to take any risk. But I've seen some specialists today, and I'm also going to see them tomorrow morning. And it goes a little bit better, but it's not 100%. And this is what it is. You can really change it, and it was the weird thing is it come there out of the blue. You know what I mean? And that was worrying me a little bit. But they said for the rest it couldn't really get worse or anything. It just I've been moving too many boxes I think in the last weeks at home. But it's one of them things.
So obviously, looking ahead.
Yeah.
Are you going to play at the O2? Right now, are you going to play?
100%, yeah, of course. Even with the same injury than yesterday, I will play next week 100%. Because it's too important, so I need to make sure I get my rest now for the next few days. And see, maybe I can play the weekend. I'm not too sure yet. Depends how I feel in the morning, and then I'm going to decide.
You could see it when he was talking there that it's not going to get any worse. And all of a sudden, even the tone in his voice picked up.
Yeah, look, he's about to go and play a Premier League finals night with effectively half a throwing arm. He's still saying as if the tone to say, yeah, I'm going to be there is, yeah, and I'm probably going to win it is there's an undertone to that confidence in the way that he speaks and the way that Van Gerwen carries himself. And look, he will have a belief. Didn't play fantastic this weekend on the Pro Tour, but the fact he went through those motions, just kept his arm loose. We'll have a couple of days rest now, hit some practice ball before Thursday. Anything can happen, can't it?
I guess I also think that's good news that if he plays, he can't make it any worse. But I think you've got a time of the year where if he's to miss, he would rather miss a couple of Players' Championships and probably even the World Cup. Well, definitely the World Cup over the Premier League finals night. We know that. We've seen it before. So his focus has got to be on these next 2 weeks. So I'm sure he'd have New York in his sights as well after the Premier League. Once that's then done, if there is needed a time for it to heal, time for him to prepare for the match play, we all know after the Premier League, his preparation will turn to the match play. And if it means missing certain events, he'll make that call then. But he was never going to miss the Premier League. No, he would probably throw left-handed before he'd give up his chance playing in the finals night.
I think you're right, but like Peter Wright withdrew from World Series events last year down under. Whilst Michael Van Gerwen is a massive part of what the PDC look to do abroad, especially in these sort of events, if he gets through Thursday night and then goes, actually, I need a rest, 4 to 6 weeks of World Series and World Cup, get himself ready. So he's got a couple of Pro Tours ready to go for the match play. It's probably a realistic aim for him right now, especially if he's been able to play on it this weekend. If he needs that time to go and load manage.
I don't see him missing New York. I see him, if he was going to miss something, the World Cup, I don't see him missing New York.
I agree. So, all eyes turn to the O2. First of all, Harry obviously commented it as well, and I've just had a quick look on Ticketmaster. Although it doesn't tell you how many sold, there is an awful lot of blue unsold areas on Ticketmaster for a huge arena.
Keep an eye on our social medias when the PDC asks us to do a giveaway to fill their seats.
Right, I've just had a quick look. There's an awful lot. There's even some table seats available still.
Which, when we talked about the Premier League and commercially what it offers, I have to throw the word in, sorry, Dob, for what the Premier League offers, and you look at the venues across countries, Europe, the 16 weeks tends to deliver in regards to sales. The fact you've come to the showpiece event of the Premier League, and we're talking about lack of sales, will be of concern, because the rest of the venues have sold predominantly well. Yes, there's not been complete sellouts, but there's still been very good sales, even at venues that don't always get them sort of numbers. So it will be a concern for the Premier League, for the PDC.
You know why? Because 10 years ago, Premier League finals night was a chance to go and see Van Gerwen, Anderson, Taylor, Barney, whatever, 4 top players that have only played each other maybe 3 times maximum since the World Championships, go and play over a longer format and go at each other, and a big build-up and a big media build-up and a big talking it up and rivalries, and Taylor and Barney giving each other jip and via Sky because social media wasn't really a thing. It's just not hyped up enough.
Yeah, look, I've just zoomed in. The blocks that are blue, they're not all. There are tickets sold, but there are still tickets available. I don't know the actual number. I will try and find out before Thursday. But look, back to the darts itself. Sean Mac does say, does Central London usually sell well? I've never seen the O2 sold out, but it's always been okay.
But the Indigo next door is the best venue for darts in the country.
He's still laughing to himself in the background.
I just look, just quoting somebody.
Yeah, I'm going to quote someone as well. Stupid.
That was my thoughts when I heard that line, because I phoned Phill to tell him.
Right, so semi-finals. First up will be Gerwyn Price against Johnny Clayton, followed by a repeat of the World Final as Michael Smith takes on Michael Van Gerwen. Now, how do we see the semi-finals going? Number one first. World Cup teammates collide. Chat room, get involved as well. How are you seeing the first one go down? Look, I think there is a clear favourite in this.
Amazing.
I think we all saw that at the same time. I was laughing at that.
I'll tell you what, that's getting. I love Maisie. That's brilliant.
Completely agree with there being a favourite and that being Gerwyn Price. Their recent head-to-head, especially in this Premier League, has favoured the Iceman. If he gets going, he's incredibly difficult to stop. Some of the opening, the way he started matches, especially like opening rounds of the Pro Tours or first match of the night on the in the World Cup, in the Premier League, has been just ridiculous. It's about, can Johnny Clayton stay with that? Can he pick off little mini sessions, because they will get the odd break, won't they? 1 or 2 maybe.
2, I think.
The big thing to notice is that for the last 2 weeks, Gerwyn Price has hit the most 180s in the Premier League on a night. Johnny Clayton has the 2 highest checkouts. And we spoke about that timing, those big moments that Johnny Clayton is producing. And I feel like for the first semi-final, that's what he's going to need to do. He's going to have to bring those. He's going to need a couple of outside shots. He's going to need to snipe if Gerwyn Price misses 2 darts in hand at top. He's going to have to punish Price mistakes early on and let him know about it. If you let him get too far in front, I'm not sure that comeback's on. It won't be the same as the Grand Prix when they've met previously, that big comeback that happened there. If Gerwyn Price gets out in front of this one, I think he will win the match.
It's the the scorer against the finisher, but my worry is the finisher isn't going to get opportunities to finish because of Price's scoring.
Before the weekend, I would have said yes. After watching him play Thursday night just gone, even the week before when he beat Dimmy, it wasn't quite there against Michael Smith. And then watching him Friday night against Gerwyn Price as well. There wasn't enough first starts in the treble for Johnny to build around, to make those 140s, those 180s. Sunday, that changed a little bit. The scoring power from Johnny was significantly better. We saw one leg where he went 140, 148, he won 140 out, and then the next 2 visits were 140. 5 visits in 6 were 140s. Like if he brings that level of scoring power, that relentlessness, he can live with Gerwyn Price 100%. But if he starts throwing 85s or a loose start or 60s or whatever, he's in trouble.
Score prediction for semi-final number 1. I'll kick us off. I am going 10-6 Gerwyn Price.
I'll go second and go 10-8 Johnny Clayton.
10-5 Price.
What have we got in the chat room? Jim has joined us. How are we all doing? We've got Price 10-7. It's got 11-8 Gezi, but we'll go with 10-8. He's bobbed to be fair, he changed it there. 10-8. I said 10-7 Price. Jim's going 100% Johnny. We'll come on to the second one in a minute. So Morgan's gone big. I don't think it'll be that one, but so semi-final number 2. It's a repeat of the world final, but so many question marks, like we've just spoken about. Michael Smith against Michael Van Gerwen. Break it down for us.
It's a lot's going to come on the injury, but even for a minute, if we put the injury to one side and talk about Michael Van Gerwen's current form pre-injury, we talked about there being a strong favourite in the first, or a favourite in the first one. Week 9, week 10, there was only one person who was lifting this Premier League title, and that was Michael Van Gerwen. Right now, I don't think he would be favourite down into a semi-final against any of the 4 because of his form in the 6 weight. Yes, he probably would be butties, but I think looking at it in current form, and I think what Michael Smith's done, excuse Thursday just done, and I know it's easy enough to say that, but he's beaten everyone apart from Dimmy in the Premier League over the current form. The game of Michael Smith, I think currently he's just too strong for MVG. Add on to that the injury, or hopefully we've got a fully fit Michael Van Gerwen, because it'll make the game so much better. But I think there's only one winner, and I think it's Bully Boy. Just on current form, like I says, add injury to that, and that probably made him even stronger. Just hope we see the game that we know that the two can produce, and it should be a fantastic semi-final. I just hope that Van Gerwen is fit.
Just looking at some of the odds, most have got them 10 to 11 each. There are a few that you can get evens on Michael Van Gerwen to beat Michael Smith. A few have got Smith favourite, but the majority have got them level, can't split them.
I think if the final was played last Wednesday, I would still have fancied Michael Smith with current form. I think that's the difference. I'm not trying to... It's hard to talk about an injury that we're not sure how bad it is, that Michael Van Gerwen could be fully fit on Thursday. So I want to sort of predict this, taking the injury out of the equation, because if he is injured, the only way that then MVG wins is if Michael Smith somehow drops his game because of the sort of the old occasion and MVG struggling, the pace getting slower, stuff like that. Injury aside, I think Michael Smith's currently the better player and wins this tie.
I completely agree. I think Van Gerwen has been on the beach, for want of a better phrase, since a very early part of this campaign. And the lack of concentration is going to get to him even before the injury. That's not to say he hasn't tried up there or whatever else, but the only thing that mattered in this Premier League was booking his spot at finals night. And since about week 5, he seems to have had that secured in the bag. The problem that Michael's got is that 5-6 years ago, he would have been able to switch off, coast his way through, and switch it on exactly when he needs to. The last 2 and a bit years of Michael Van Gerwen has not been able to do that. And I think as confident he is, and as we are seeing more and more consistency from him, he's producing more and more of those moments that make you think that he might still get back to 2016, 2017 Van Gerwen that wins when he wants sort of thing. I think he's taken a little bit of a liberty there, and it's going to cost him, because at the same time, Michael Smith has got his Premier League absolutely bang on. 16 weeks is a awfully long time. He dealt with his media responsibilities from the World Championship that were still looming over the start of the Premier League, and whatever other commitments he had, while still accumulating the odd points, but not really putting the effort into not putting the effort in, but not picking up night wins. He's built that campaign up towards the back end, and right now I think he's a far more informed player than Van Gerwen, even before the injury. So I'm going Smith as well.
I think I agree that no injury, I think it would be a close game, but I'm not convinced how fit MVG is going to be. But he does have a knack of turning up on final days. I wouldn't write him off, but I agree that I think Smith is favourite.
Oh, look, if anybody in the world of darts is able to rock up with half an arm and win a Premier League finals night, Van Gerwen's name is one you're going to put in that conversation straight away. Let's not.
Dob, just on that one, and sorry, just on that one, the fact he's playing semi-final 2 has the massive negative for me on MVG. If we get through Smith,
yeah,
the fact he's potentially has only got what is it, about 15-20 minutes Premier League finals night? I know it's normally a little bit longer than
about 20 minutes. That's about 20 minutes normally.
20 minutes. That isn't the same as what you'd have for, let's say, Johnny Clayton or Price comes through that one. They've got about an hour and a half, give or take, depending how the game goes. But I just think, yes, it could seize up if you're in semi-final 1, not doing anything, but you can also get back on the board and practice. The fact he would have to return back to a London format game so quickly, after he didn't on Thursday play a game not long after, I find it very, very difficult for MVG to come through and win this Premier League.
Especially as Phill and I looked at the numbers over the weekend, and 6 of the last 7 Premier Leagues have been won by somebody that plays in the first semi-final. Look, if Van Gerwen was to overturn Michael Smith and be in that final, I would be on semi-finals now by the looks of it. The weekend worked out perfectly for him in that regard. Saturday, he played 1 game. He produced a 103 average in a 10-leg match. Didn't have to play anymore. All right, he lost it in a couple of key moments, but he proved that he's got that level. And then on Sunday, he played 3 or 4 games, I think it was, or wherever he lost. So he's shown that he can play more games straight afterwards. Look, not quite at the same 103 level that we saw in that first game on Saturday. There was glimpses of odd moments. There were a couple of rogue darts as well. But again, if they're like the mini sessions of 5 for an ad break that we're going to see, he can afford to lose one of them 3-2 or 4-1 if he goes back and wins the one way he's got the darts 4-1 sort of thing. So it's just about how he manages that. If anybody's going to be able to do this with carrying an injury, then I think Van Gerwen is one of those in that conversation. However, I don't think he'll make the final. I think Smith will win that one 10-6, and we'll get a Price versus Smith final, which is 1 versus 2. And I don't think anybody can really argue with that after the last 16 weeks.
So, crunch time. Who will be the 2023 Premier League champion? Will there be a new name on the trophy, or will there be a repeat name?
My winner was quite easy until Dob decided to throw a fact at me about the Premier League winner coming from that semi-final one. No, I'm sticking with my fault was Michael Smith, and I'm sticking with Michael Smith. I think he beat John Clayton in the final. However, I see it going all the way. I do think it'll be a final that will produce, even if it is Desi in there, either way that lands. I agree that the best two players would see Smith and Price, and I think my heart is telling me I'd like to see that on Thursday night, but I've just got this sneak feeling that Clayton will find a way, and we'll see Clayton, Michael Smith, and Smith wins it in 21 legs, finds an 11 darter in the last leg and wins it in style.
I can't ignore the stats.
Stats are there to.
The first time we've ever done some research, and he's sticking to it like glue.
I can't look past how weighted it is in favour of semi-final number one.
Yeah, look,
if Michael Smith comes through that tie, and I know we're all saying that he is at the moment with the injury and so on, is he the best player out the four to just go back on? Does that sort of give him a bit of an advantage? Yes, the stats rely to semi-final one, but that probably would suit Bully Boy more than it would the others.
I think so.
It would, but I also think Price playing in semi-final number one suits him.
Yeah.
I imagine to Clayton, so obviously my argument's slightly different on that, but I just think Smith carries on.
I think Gary Price has been the best player across the 16 weeks. And I think he goes to the O2 and adds one of the biggest titles in darts to the CV that is missing. I think Gary Price will be the 2023 Premier League champion.
I went looking for the stats to try and talk myself out of it, but I'm still going Michael Smith. Look, Michael Smith was my
that's why we love you, Bob. That's why we love you, mate.
Michael Smith was my pick before we went looking for the stats. I still thought this weekend that he'd do the job, and I can't change my mind right now. The fact he didn't play this weekend obviously means there's less of us to judge form that couple of days before. We did see Gezi make an appearance, but Michael Smith that we've seen for the last few weeks, especially when he won 3 weeks on the spin, was the same Michael Smith mentally that won the World Championship. And that's been important for me because that was missing for a while. That little bit of drive, that little bit of edge to Michael Smith where there's that cool confidence about him. That seems to be back right now. And over a longer format, I think that will just come out. And there is also the chance that if Van Gerwen isn't at full strength, that game doesn't last very long.
Dob, and with him not playing this weekend, knowing he's in that form, the only way he can keep his confidence at that level is by winning one of these. So the fact he's pulled out thinking my confidence is already where it is, I think has the potential to be a great move because of the money that's in the Premier League.
Yeah. These players know how to manage their schedules now. They've been doing it for long enough at the very, very top level. Price, Smith. Smith is one that doesn't tend to normally manage it, but if he's opted for a rest this weekend, then I think he knows what he's doing. Because he is one that would try and play in absolutely everything. There was events last year where he joked that he tried to pull out of it and his partner was like, nope, you go in, you're playing, we've already booked your travel and accommodation, whatever, just go and do it, lump it, put up with it, blah, blah, blah. I think that the fact he's taken a week off means he knows exactly what he's doing. He's got a busy couple of weeks coming up after that. He's already secured for the World Cup. He's got New York coming up, but I think he'll be in the right place to go there on Thursday night. And the other big thing that none of us have mentioned yet, but I think will come into play at some point, rightly or wrongly, is the fact that Michael Smith is English.
I don't think it will.
Nah.
I do. And look, I don't want it to, but there is a worry that in that final, Gerwyn Price will take Cop from the crowd.
I don't think the crowd are currently in that sort of mindset. Again, I'm sort of writing off Thursday, but I think that was very much across a number of players. I don't think that will play an impact on Thursday, and my God, I hope it doesn't.
I pray to God
I
it doesn't.
don't think it will. I don't think it will.
I think there's a chance that an Englishman in the final means the other person doesn't get a friendly reception.
The only way that happens is if we see it earlier on in the night, and it's not because he's Welsh, but it's more of an anti-Gerwyn Price, and we see people support Johnny Clayton. But
if they do it because he's Welsh, it's a bit daft because he's playing a Welshman.
No, but I mean, that you'd only see it in the final, then, wouldn't you? But the only way that people go against him is because it's Gerwyn Price. Yes. I think we've lost that a lot of the Premier League. If anything, they've turned on the lights of Dimmy and Peter Wright that we've never seen before. But I'm not concerned about that on Thursday, and hopefully
we have lost that a little bit. But I think Aberdeen was one that goes against that a bit, which is recency bias, and B, Gerwyn Price has always been able to go into those venues and get them on side, but he's never really played anybody from that nationality when doing so. I don't think he played Michael in Rotterdam when they went to Germany. Obviously, there wasn't any Germans there. Aberdeen against Peter Wright. I'm about as Scottish as he is.
Yeah, but
I'm not worried about it on Thursday.
I'm with Branner on this one. I think the O2 is too big to have the same impact as the little intimate venues.
But there's only 12
depends if no one's in there.
Hear every shout.
it's Premier League night, Gibraltar Friday afternoon. That's what we've done.
But I just think that Price is on the way to cementing his legacy as one of the all-time greats, and he adds one of the missing two to the collection.
Since you've got on the train with him, you've changed, have it? Used to be all about
the if that does happen, I know we'll probably address this post, but how big a turnaround will that be for Gerwyn Price? Because let's be honest, his record in the Premier League is shocking. Him and Peter Wright, for two of the players that are in contention, if not already there, for top 10 greats of all time, in terms of number of titles won, have never, ever pushed. Peter Wright's made 2 finals nights.
Is that a mindset change, though, for Price that we've seen?
I don't know. That was where I was going with it. Is it mindset? Is it actually this field hasn't been as strong as it could have been?
I think it's a combination of a few things. First of all, Peter Wright should have won a Premier League title. Let's be fair, he completely pressed the self-destruct button in that final. There's no question Peter Wright should have the Triple Crown next to his name.
Yeah, but the concern for Peter Wright is...
He agreed.
I'm agreeing with him, should have won a Premier League title. The concern for me isn't the year that he should have won a Premier League title. The concern for me is the other 8 out of 10 years where he's failed to be in the top 4 in both formats.
The Premier League over 16 weeks is a long time to get it right. And as you said earlier, Michael Smith has judged it to perfection. And it is all about just making sure you are at the O2. That is the bottom line. And if you do that, it then just becomes a knockout tournament on one night. The hard bit is getting there.
And you've said that, but both of you have written off Johnny Clayton, who's done exactly that by just making it and striving through.
Well, more stats. The last time Johnny Clayton finished 4th in the Premier League, he won it.
Have you eaten a stat book before you come on today? Where are all these things
Players
from?
to finish fourth last year wired a double to win it.
So, to be fair, we've got an interview with Joe Cullen coming out this week, and he says a great line talking about the Premier League. He was like, yeah, he went, well, I ironed Johnny out last year, so he's got a chance this year. Along with Coronation Street and Emmerdale, but that'll probably be in the headline.
Yeah.
But that is the Premier League concludes this week. Moving on, there was Boise likes an announcement from a certain...
I'd forgotten this had happened.
Oh, I hadn't. Don't worry.
You know what? I'll happily remove myself from this part if you want. I'm down.
Oh, you're staying right there, pal.
Why?
We had an announcement about a non-announcement about the World Masters. Back in, was it March? Nick Rolls, the General Secretary, said there would be something happening, and there would be an announcement by the 31st of March. We're now midway through May, and we're putting it back till June. For one of the most prestigious tournaments in world darts, it's a fucking mess.
Can I just quote something from the statement? So I had it up ready. I knew you was going to come to me, even though you didn't want to. Just one line. We also know that radio silence is not helpful for players. If you know that, tell them something.
Why is it taking until the middle of May to produce this? Is the issue?
It's another, and
it's more Tottenham defending.
Yeah, it's a statement about that. No, there's no statement. It's
basically we haven't got enough money in to run it, and we're still trying to work it out. When you read between the lines,
it's a bit of a play, by the sounds of things.
Yeah,
it isn't. Look, sometimes you just have to take a little bit of a leap of faith and hope that these things come off. If they're not ready to announce, then saying that puts things in jeopardy. If there's a part in the statement where it says we're working on securing not only the current tournament but the long-term future, if there are genuine conversations about that going on, then pushing it back for me is not an issue. The timing of the statement, not great. Everything else that comes with it, and the WDF, look, could have been managed better. What they need to do, and whilst they don't have the funds to do it, is recruit somebody that understands PR immediately.
If it's not a play for sponsors or anything to just support with the whole event, then this message that's been sent and made public should have just been sent to players, because players should be updated regular if there is no announcement. But I'm not sure what this gains positively from a fan perspective, other than it's another statement about a non-statement. So if it's not my part on this is, if it's not a plea to that supporters or sponsors, what is the point from a non-player perspective? Because I don't see any.
Because let's be honest, there are far too many players involved in the WDF for them to specify which ones should and shouldn't receive this. And at least one of them's going to put it on social media somewhere anyway. So it's damage limitation that they produced it themselves rather than been leaked by someone else, and people start having pop shots at it. Yeah. If this conversation we had...
But then that's a player who's done that. I just don't... Literally, I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit excited when I saw the message come up, so I thought at least read anyone. To then read it and then to the end of it, I was more disappointed if I wouldn't have seen anything at all.
Part of my issue is the radio silence, which they kind of said, but they're still trying to get players to go around the world, recruit ranking points. The whole selling point of the WDF tour for the top end players is to get to the Worlds and get to the Masters.
Yeah,
that's the selling point. That's the two big tournaments that they're selling the dream of. Yet we've got one that they're still trying to push, but is it even going to happen? And now, if it does, they're going to have to try and cram 2 big major events into a 4 or 5 month window.
For this to have an impact on seeding positions for this year's World Championship, it needs to happen before October. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's October when the draw's made for the Worlds or the seeding cut-off is. Yes, the seeding players are already qualified, but it's where they qualify. This tournament has to happen before October for it to have an impact on this year's Worlds. Also, you don't want to. I'm with you. You don't want a Masters event in November and your World Championship in December, when those are the only 2 events that you have in a 12-month window of TV coverage. I think we sort of had similar discussions, Dob, when the seniors sort of started about having those cramming in of TV tournaments and then nothing for a large period of time. Yes, you still have your floor events and your opens, but the long-term aim of this needs to be that the Masters takes part, for me, in around June, July time. Not that you made an announcement around June, July, with your Worlds in December.
In terms of exposure, short gaps between your events isn't the worst thing in the world for that period of time. But the problem is that is also the busiest time in the calendar for darts events, because a lot of no one runs September to January or whatever school calendar. It's January to December, isn't it? A lot of cycles, rankings, etc. So look, the PDC obviously dominate that massively. It's just again a little bit of a mess, and for too long, genuinely agree with politics in the main part and decision making, and I'm not here going to sit and tell you that everything should be a dictatorship, but I think some sort of businesses like this would benefit from that.
I'm just looking. I've just got the WDF calendar up as well. I struggle to see where you fit it in because there's just ranking tournaments everywhere.
I would think there's. It's hard to see what the button and the tossed and all that associated to it, but the Masters should override anything normally because you've left. So
the individuals are run by the associations, aren't they? Like either you can run them both at the same time. It doesn't matter. They're just cut off at the ranking points. The
problem is you just piss a country off, don't you, by running your second biggest event over one of theirs.
Yeah, but not everybody's going to qualify for that anyway, are they?
For
the World Masters? If they do run that over there, fine. But you can still send, however, say it's, I don't know, Danish Darts Open that weekend that they decide to choose it. There aren't going to be 170 Danish players qualifying for the World Masters, are there?
They're not now, but you've got your qualifiers for it as well. And ain't they the day before, 2 days before, was it run last year?
Don't know. Potentially. Depends how they do it, don't it?
The number of entries that they had, just a bit of a, I'd say, it's back to the statement, it's just a bit of a nothing statement. It's not an announcement.
We now have a second date to work towards because that first date has clearly come and gone. Radio silence and just doubts being out there.
Does it mean anything?
A little. What?
Does it mean anything? A second date to work towards?
No.
If they honour it and if they give us an update at that date, then yes. If not, then you're like, well, you're full of shit.
But if they give us an update on that to say we've now pushed that to the end of July, for example, just moving.
If they come back with a second pushback, then no, it means absolutely nothing. If we don't get a clear update, by the end of June, if we do not get a yes or no from the WDF that they are ready to stage this tournament or they're pushing it back for a year, then that isn't good enough. After now delaying and then putting out a statement about the delay. That has to come in June now. Regardless of whatever else happens, the end of June, the WDF have to communicate whether or not this tournament will be played this year or if it will be pushed back.
Even still, if it gets pushed back, I think it's a joke because of the promise that's been sold to the players about going and qualifying for events. The same as that, by the sounds of it, well, we've got a screenshot of someone within the WDF that said they knew the Worlds was going back. That World qualifier that was held the same weekend as the Masters was sold as the dream that Lakeside is happening soon. And then it got pushed back. And then there was a comment on a Facebook on one of the groups by someone within the WDF that said, well, we all knew in November it was getting pushed back. Yet they sold the dream of that qualifier to get people to go.
I guess they did and they didn't. Not they did and they didn't, but you also have to look at the counter of that is when they did know, a lot of people would have already been booked in for that qualifier. And that's in a cost of living crisis. Lots of people losing money that have already registered for that on things that aren't refundable would have been worse than running a qualifier a year and a bit ahead of the event. And at that point, you have to push as many people there to make that qualifier valid.
I've got no issue with that. But if the inner people within the WDF knew, like that post said, tell the players at the same time, look, the qualifier is here, but the tournament's not going to happen for a year.
But then that invalidates the costs of running that tournament, doesn't it?
Because
you are going to get less attended.
But it's still underhand.
It's underhand, but as a business, you can't afford for that to not be well attended. Not in the state that company are right now, anyway. And that's the issue.
Well, I disagree.
Well, yeah, with the Masters being that weekend, I think it's only that you're already there. It's going to be as attended as it would be anyway. I think.
And you said as a business, the number of times I've said that about the PDC, and you've gone no. You're either a business or a governing body. You keep saying.
Well, yeah, you are, but
they can't have it both.
Staging events has a cost at that level.
Yeah, it does. But the fact that it goes back, they already knew. It's a lie to the players.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lie.
What is it?
It wasn't a lie, was it? It's a bending, but it's not a lie.
Bending.
At no point did anybody go, yeah, this.
You've changed.
Yeah, you've changed.
You know an event's the end of a year and you tell people you've got a qualifier for the middle of the year. That's a lie.
They never said when. They just said World Championship qualifier.
Okay, it was very much insinuated. It was going
right, insinuated, but it's not lying. There's a difference.
Wasn't it in their calendar for a certain month?
No, it was removed from their calendar way before that. Sure it was. Anyway, there's 10 minutes left. We haven't done question time, and there's surely more to talk about. Big weekend for the ADC.
Yeah, huge weekend. The pictures all across social media looked fabulous as the open series. They call it open series or tour events. That's the open series is the seniors. The tour events happened in Bridlington, both men and women. First women's events, and first of all with the women's events, superb to see them so strongly supported by established names. Dita went there, Lisa went there. Yes, they cleaned up. Kim Holden, who's done well on the women's series, Amanda Kirkwood as well. Great to see Angela, man. But great to see these. But great to see these supported.
Yeah.
No, that's no real surprise. We with Lorraine on the other week was talking about where the women's game is and it being in such a positive light, and the fact the ADC are holding these events as well, which are supported by some of the best women in the game at the moment, you know, and the winners showed that with Lisa and Dita. It was just an all-round positive weekend for the ADC in what is generally such positive feedback on all the events that are run with these bid open events. Even better.
Andy Hammond wasn't happy, but no doubt it will get addressed. Chris Wickenham picking up one of the titles. Yes, what a beard to be feared.
I've not changed, Steve. I'm
Yes,
still
you have.
exactly.
No. Retracted.
I've not changed at all, right? You can't go in on something that hasn't gone wrong 100% yet. They've made mistakes, but until that event doesn't happen, because if they pull it out now, fair play to them. And we've sat here looking like absolute dickheads going, oh, you've made a statement, looking like idiots. If they pull out a World Masters this year, you can't sit here and criticise at this moment. You say communication hasn't been good enough at times, yes. But for the most part, if they pull out a World Masters this year, fair play to them. And that's the point. If that doesn't go ahead, or if we're sat here at the end of that second time, when they've been given the benefit of the doubt with this statement, there's a difference.
You can't. It's the
No, Barzi, you know it as well, because this is exactly the same as what sort of happened with our good friend Jar when Barney made his comeback. He went in on him before he'd even played an event. He rocks up and then he wins a Pro Tour 3 weeks later.
This is a tournament that's been run for how many years with such history, and the fact you are naming your 12-month calendar and you have not got your Masters in there is ridiculous.
That's my issue. Is the fact that they've been selling the tour all year. Go and get your ranking points on.
Where have they been selling that? It's not on social media. They don't have fucking social media presence. It isn't good enough.
All right,
they're not selling anything. It just exists the way it's always existed.
Well,
they've got some sort of marketing team going, you need this, that, and the other. No, there's no communication at all. They're not selling anything.
They are, because they're still taking sanctioning fees off of tournaments to get ranking points for the Worlds and the Masters.
Yeah, in case. If they don't do that and then they pull off a Masters, they've got no fucking order of merit to put people in for.
But if it then doesn't, but as a player, you need to get your calendar in order. Right, where do I need to go to get ranking points? How many ranking points do I need? And at the moment...
Yeah, right. And if they don't sanction these events, don't take it, and then there is a Masters, you'll be sat here going, well, you're fucking stupid, you should have seen this come in.
Well, this is why it has to be at the start of every year.
They've had no money. They've had to start again. The BDO was fucked.
Yeah,
so there's no way looking at it.
But well, as a player, you cannot plan your year because you don't know when the tournament's going to be, when the cut-offs are going to be. So you could go and get a shitload of ranking points and be for nothing.
All right. Same question to you, Steve. There's a lot of people getting a shitload of ADC ranking points. What are they playing for?
But they haven't promised anything.
They were, and then it got pushed back because of cost of living crisis. They promised a global championship. Two relatively new organisations in similar situations, but we're sat here giving one the benefit of the doubt and one because it used to be something else that has more baggage to carry. Absolute pelters.
One's a new organisation. One isn't. One's been going.
In terms of the management level that the WDF have taken on, it's new. The previously just existed in the background. Anyway, we'll talk about the other shit.
But from what one's delivered to what the other one's delivered in that time period, they are slightly different.
Massively. The ADC are huge for that, and I cannot give them enough credit for that. But they both are without a big end-of-year product right now.
Nah.
Well, they are. You can't just say nah. Nah.
Yeah, but
where is it?
No, that is fine. But one's new, one's not. That's my point.
Nah. They're both 4 billion years old. I don't believe you. Just nah.
But,
nah.
We knew it wouldn't take long to put 50p in the meter.
Nah. To get stupid, just nah. That's the new phrase. I think we can all agree, Steve, that name was wrong. That's the only thing. MAD. Nah, the rest of it has been brilliant. Fair play to you, mate. And I'm not attacking you either, by the way. I just want to put Bars in his place for a minute. We still have a fair bit to talk to. Can we get cracking?
No.
Nah.
We've got CDC results this weekend, including the US Darts Masters lineup. We've got Scott Mitchell actually qualifying for a European tour now that he doesn't have a tour card after failing to do so in 2 years of being a tour card holder. And we're sat here going, nah. Yes. You see why people come back every week, honestly.
Look, you can. Look.
Nah.
Matt loves the show.
You need to see the cogs turning before you just went, nah.
Steve's on a slight delay.
Hold it.
Don't worry.
In a minute.
We'll pump you in a minute. Right, yeah, CDC results. We know the lineup for the upcoming US Darts Masters and North American.
Any response, Dob?
Any response, Mr. Garwood?
WDF, put it on YouTube as well.
Ours is on Sporty Stuff TV. What was that? Can you speak up a little bit? I didn't quite catch that.
I'm messing. Look, clearly there are levels between what they're both producing right now, but back to the ranking points. A big end of season, what you're accumulating, part of that is some sort of national or international championship.
Right. CDC results. First of all, event number 1 was won by Jake Womack, beating Steve Bunce in the final. Just got to say as well, the overall averages on the CDC this weekend were very good. Where are we? Event.
I've got the qualifiers up. I forgot about the tour events as well.
I'll do the floor events. You keep the qualifiers up. Event
I'm just going to still laugh in the background because I'm done. I'm telling you tonight.
Event number 2 was won by Alex Spellman. No surprise there, averaging 95 plus in the final. And then event number 3 was won by Leonard Gates, who will also go to the PDC World Cup on winning that event. Because of the way the ranking points are, he takes the spot to go alongside Jules van Dongen.
That was tight as well between him and Danny Baggish, wasn't it? It was some
point
weird
going into the weekend or something. And Leonard Gates averaging 97.62 in that final.
You don't want to draw that pair
and the final, and he was just relentless.
Yeah.
That is not a pair you want to draw.
No.
So you got the qualifier up, Gob?
Yeah, the first one was won by Jason Brandon, beating Jake McMillan. Leonard Gates and Danny Baggish both falling in the semi-finals. Danny Lauby, Jacob Taylor, Joey Liner all beaten in the quarterfinals as well. The second event qualifier was won by JT Davis. I believe he was a Q School winner for the CDC. They had their own version of Q School earlier in the year from Canada. They beat Elliot Milk in the final. Gary Mawson beaten in the semis. Larry Butler in the quarterfinals. Joey Liner quarterfinals as well, which means the 8 players participating in the US Darts Masters for North America will be Jeff Smith, Matt Campbell, Jules van Dongen, Alex Spellman, Jim Long, Jason Brandon, JT Davis, and Jake McMillan. Which will be interesting to see some new names, because when you think about the players that then haven't qualified, David Cameron, Leonard Gates, the defending champion, was not offered an invitation to an invitational event. That one's possibly an oversight now that we're here at the end of it. I did see a few comments flying around on social media. Danny Baggish was a little bit perplexed that it was strange that none of the big names were there, but at the same time, they were all beaten in qualifiers a number of times. Admittedly, races to 4 are brutal, but
they were. But again,
if you know what you've got to do to be there, and you have one bad game that cost you, that's sport. Everybody's capable of that one bad game. You've got to be better and more consistent than everybody else in the room if you're going to go and pick up that spot. And on the day, you clearly weren't.
No, to a point, I agree with that. But I also agree in any tournament, not just this one, by the way, the defending champion should always have the opportunity to defend their title. That's not that's in anything. That's not just darts. That's football, whatever. The defending champions should always have the opportunity to defend the title, in my opinion.
Agree.
That was the CDC. Where are we going to next?
We have a list of Euro Tour qualifiers, the associate member and host nation from this weekend. ET9, Christian Kist and Marcel Walpen were the victors. And ET10, Christian Kist doubled it up with Daryl Pilgrim. ET11, it was Wesley Placier and Roy van der Glint. On ET12, Andy Bolton and Scott Mitchell will make his European Tour debut in Hungary. And ET13, Daryl Pilgrim picking up a second appearance with Jelle Klassen. The host nation qualifiers also took place over this weekend. There was just 3 of them, though, for ET9, 10, and 11. Good news if you like falling asleep. Liam Maindor Lawrence has qualified for 2 out of the 3. He qualifies for ET9 and 10. Nico Kurtz qualifies for 9 and 11. And the 2 other players, Fabian Hertz for ET10 and Danny Tessman for ET11.
Let's hope Ryan Meekel's not at them as well. Otherwise, it could be carnage. Look. So, we are in Fergie time, but we are still going to do question time as always. We're not going to sell you short. So, get your questions in. We've got started a few from earlier on. Are there a minimum number of Pro Tours card event holders are playing? At the moment, it is totally down to the individual once you've won your card. But it wouldn't surprise me, things that have happened in recent years, if maybe there was a percentage bought in.
Should be.
This one's for you, Boise.
Phill Bars. Phill Bars.
If you were picking somebody to save your life based on their ability to have a debate, who are you back in?
Tonight, Phill Bars.
Nah.
Not having it. End of discussion.
Yeah, if I wanted a really, really short debate, I would have Phill Bars. If I wanted a longer debate, I would have yourself. If I wanted a delayed debate, I'd have Steve Brown, because he's about to take his blind and he'll leave us in a minute.
It's a bad time yet.
No. And by the way, Gob, your Champions League hopes are officially over.
They're not. His luck could still fuck up.
No, don't know what happened.
I'm not saying they will, but they can, so it's not over. Don't worry though, folks. Now that we're finished, you can go and tune into the sports bar with Jason Cundy shouting, "Has anybody seen like a fucking toddler?" on TalkSport.
We are in the Champions League just as much as Ryan Searle was in the match play when we was asking you as Ryan Searle in the match play. It's the same comparison.
Yeah. Which means you're not actually safe.
We're not dark green. But we're there. We're just not dark green. Same as Matura in the women's match play.
Oh, it's definitely there. Can we please have some dark green on that?
Yeah.
Please listen to us.
Yeah, right. Final, get your questions in then and we will answer them. Plenty coming up. Premier League finals, media day as well. We got plenty of interviews going out this week as well. There's some interesting comments, Gob, isn't there?
From what?
There's some interesting comments in some of the interviews coming up.
Yes. Night, Steve.
I think the match play will only leave the Winter Gardens if the Winter Gardens is condemned and is physically unavailable to host darts.
Vincent van der Waal gets pissed off at losing, just drives
Yeah, Vincent gets hold of a bulldozer.
They're still building in the shopping centre next door, aren't they? Just accidentally falls over.
It's not leaving Blackpool anytime soon, we hope.
It wouldn't be the same.
No.
Even if the Winter Gardens was to cease to exist, I'm not saying there is another venue that can replicate it in Blackpool. Exactly. It would never quite be the same. But as a darting hotbed, I don't think you can leave Blackpool. The seniors going to Viva prove that. Blackpool loves the darts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, completely. Speaking of which, it was a bad weekend for Barney in the race for the match play. No money, and he's now 16th.
Whitlock. Whitlock, I'm sure Whitlock was about 12th not that long ago. 12th, 13th. He's dropping quickly. Barney's on the brink. What a fight that would be, though, if we get to the final stages between Barney and Whitlock with about £500 between them.
Round number 1 on the streaming board, Raymond van Barneveld against Simon Miller. Yes, Matthew, I am fully on board with you.
No. Move the players, leave the UK Open.
There was one more bit of news. You asked me on Sunday, actually, if Adam Warner had played in the Pro Tour this weekend.
I saw his Facebook post. Yeah.
Yeah. Adam Warner earlier today posted, for those wondering why I wasn't at the Pro Tour this weekend, I was admitted to hospital on Saturday with what I thought was food poisoning. Turns out I had a perforated appendix. Had the operations take it out now and should be on the mend shortly. So best wishes to Adam. I know that he was playing early in the week. He plays around Yorkshire area, incredibly competitive, and was picking up plenty of wins. Local league, I know it doesn't quite add up to Pro Tour, but it looked like he was going to be in good shape heading into this weekend. Taken away from a little bit, but plenty of time to build on that. So I hope you're well, buddy, if you are watching.
Yeah, and look, it was good to see people like Hendo performed well and everything on the Pro Tour. It was good to see the ones coming in.
Yeah, Jared Cole picked up a couple of good wins. Obviously, we saw John Henderson on the Pro Tour again this weekend. Plenty of call-ups from that as well, which, look, will we see another weekend with as many players missing a Pro Tour this weekend? I'm not sure, but it does make that challenge tour even more important at the moment.
More important, and more important than the PDC recognise it for what it is.
100%.
Yeah. Without doubt.
We've not agreed on much tonight, but I think we can all agree that it's a far bigger asset than the PDC currently have it.
Have we agreed on anything tonight?
No, don't be daft. Nah. Just that happened, is it? But I think that's about a wrap for tonight. 10 minutes of Fergie time's not too bad for us.
We haven't had none for a while.
But as we said, plenty coming your way. Plenty of interviews across the next week. I'm not here next.
Yes, that's the best thing, folks. There's no party next week. Come on!
To be fair, depending on what my Wi-Fi is like, and I might just drop in randomly and come and say hello.
Nah.
No.
Nah.
You are bad. Nah. Nah. It's not happening.
And there's no way, by the way, before we go off air, there's no way that you are getting away with just being on a plane next week. We've got a better story than that, Mr. Bars. Don't you worry about that.
Yes. He would have been on the plane on his Wi-Fi, but was detained in security for shoving stuff up his ass through customs.
Yeah, that's right.
And next week we'll tell you what was up there.
But
Tune in.
The greatest cliffhanger online darts have ever had.
we haven't asked him yet, but that's the plan, James. Yeah, the housewife's choice will be back.
I mean, not after the football tonight. No chance.
But like we say, thank you for your continued support as always, everyone. We have been Online Darts. Massively appreciate it as always. I've been Phill Bars, Jack Garwood, Lee Boyce. Anything to add before we sign off?
Nah.
Bye.